presenting to Kristen Rock. This is the largest class I've taught here, so I really think I found my calling. So this is, this is an experiment. We are using a model that's called flipping, which means you get into the subject you're investigating first, and you develop your own intuitions and senses about it. And then on the second day, we get together and we talk about it. And it's in that discussion afterward that many of the things we tell you in lectures actually make sense. Before you touch the tools, before you think about the place and what it means, talking about it in the abstract probably has about 40% retention value. Studies show that by flipping classes, there's a lot more that students retain and a lot more the students get out of it. And so that's what we're attempting to figure out here. We hope you will give us feedback. If please don't be embarrassed if I come up to you and go, well, what did you think? I did that to somebody yesterday, very helpful. It was also very meaningful. And also, we are trying to think about this as the way that we teach certain elements of the learning in the department. So this is the first class that's been flipped and was purposely done this way. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to jump right in. And the board serves as our map, and it has two sides. This is information on notes and updates about particular elements that have been brought to our attention, and it's going to be materials that relate specifically to the assignments. Here will be just general notes about what we're doing this particular day and where we're going. All right? What you're going to learn in this workshop are the basics that we use no matter where we are. And you can be out in Botswana in a small village, and as long as they have a national census, you have the capacity to at least think about these tools, if not actually implement them. And once you get good at using them, you can actually make them very flexible to meet your needs. So if you don't have the perfect data, there's a problem with time, then there are actual ways that you can develop intuitions based on just understanding the frameworks that these tools provide. We make projections based on data that's 10 years old, and we just do it as a linear assumption of what the past experience was. You do that when you actually have some sense of where you are and what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so when we begin, the first thing to do is to read the website. And what I mean by that is read the front page and read the acknowledgments and all of the errata that give you a sense for either who did what, when it was done, the technical details behind the tool. It's not long and laborious, but you always want to do that. So because the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to go, what year is that data? Who's that data from? So you want to look at that. As you go along, please note questions, because your questions will be from this moment forward as you're thinking about the tools in the evening and when we meet in the second class. And those are going to form part of our conversation. So if you have questions, make sure you write them down. There's no wrong question. The only wrong question is when you don't actually write down, right? We won't know what it is. So you want to make sure, because we're there to interpret. We're there to tell you everything we know. We're there to tell you the tricks of the trade. We're there to give you warning about, remember when you do this, this is what it means. Think about the data. This is loaded with a particular type of information, and it's not just one source of information, it's multiple sources of information. One of the benefits of using these tools is it does expose you to different data sources. One of the things I did as a grad student was I got involved in a huge data project, and I became this complete nutcase about all the itty-bitty details. And so I was actually often taken by my professors to meetings where other people were discussing their research. So I could ask the question, well, county business patterns really won't allow you to do that. So have you thought? So I've spent a lot of my life actually directing people to be using the right information in the appropriate way and steering them away from things which really aren't capable of doing what somebody's intending to do. A good example is the census has got data on industry, but it's an individual perspective of industry. The better data is actually from the employer. But if you don't know that, you're going to use the census data, and there's all sorts of mechanical reasons why it's not as good. But also, if you do use it, you should at least understand the person like me in the audience going, why aren't you using that data? Doesn't actually do that. Think about place. So this is all about, these projects are really designed so that you take someplace you are intimately familiar with. It can be your hometown. I really recommend that if you have no other place in mind, to take someplace that you have some sensibility about. And these are all calibrated to look at a particular location and then look at it relative to another aggregate. The tools are developed on the basis of counties. That is because in the United States, the information that's collected, whether it's from the economic census, whether it's from the EA, that's the Bureau of Economic Analysis, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or the census itself, the county is the geographic unit for which we have the most detailed disaggregated data. As soon as you go below that, you run into problems of disclosure. And once you run into problems of disclosure, then you really are out there on a limb. You're not actually sure what's in the database and what isn't. And if we talk about county business patterns, that's really the one set that matters. Sharing is fine. So if you're sitting next to somebody and you can't actually get what's going on, or you have a big blob on one of your pie charts and you want to know why you have that big blob, because the other person next to you doesn't, talk about it and say, well, that big blob is a miscellaneous category. That means my place has got a big portion of the economy that is indistinct, can't be separated out into categories. What does that tell me? And maybe you guys can talk about it. Just think about driving in a little town where there's a lot, but not much of anything, right? Keep thinking about the little places you've been to and the towns you imagine you're going to work in, because this is all about building analytical intuition. These tools are best used when you feel like I'm working with my brain to interpret what's going on. This is not interpreting reality for me. I'm interpreting it. So select your county, share your find, think of place, think of data, note your questions.
Maybe just to note because the Stellar site has a syllabus and then links and it should have all the readings in the syllabus and other links and resources. So that'll be kind of the central communication hub for the class. Because and Amy, like only like half the class are officially. I don't think many of you are officially registered. So I'll post notices and stuff. So just make sure to check that if you're not getting it.
Well, and you can actually, if you're not registered, if you just send me your emails,
We'll
I'll add you to the site and then you'll get all the.
Great.
And if you don't mind, we don't mind if you don't take this for credit, but if you don't mind, we will want to use that list to say to the head of the department, this number of people sat through this class. And let me also say, you will know very quickly whether you should sign up or not, because in my opinion, these are easy credits in terms of the amount of credits you're getting for the focused amount of effort that you're going to be engaged in. Not because it's, knowledge X, Y, Z, but really it's a lot for a little. And that's, I think, the objective of where we're going with graduate education, actually. Okay, 2 notes. Notes about the project. In the first assignment, you'll be calculating location quotients. Right now, we do not have you doing an assignment on shift share analysis, which is, so location quotients allow you to identify industries which are export-based, that is, that people from the outside buy those goods, versus those industries which are part of the local fabric and are what we call a residentiary sector. And we'll talk, the readings are really clear about what's the difference between those 2 components and how we interpret them as drivers. We also have a tool called shift share analysis, and shift share analysis allows you to decompose a local economy into constituent elements so you know whether or not you're a place that has a lot of industries in a slow growth trajectory versus industries which are growing greater than the national average, and also whether or not there's some unique characteristic of your economy relative to the national average. Those are useful when you're trying to figure out, well, so what do we target, or what do we think about as our advantage or our disadvantage? We're talking about actually doing a web TV bit on shift share analysis, so that's probably something we'll do, which we won't require you to turn in, but you'll be able to access.